Hi there, I'm Brigid Bechtel.
Oh, I'm Scott.
And we live in Emmaus, Pennsylvania, and we hired G Contracting to renovate our entire kitchen, our dining room, our eating area, and even more than we originally thought. I went high and low and all around the Lehigh Valley, interviewing several different firms, and I knew from the get-go I wanted to hire a company that would bring in everybody, and I didn't have to try to manage any one-off projects. And G Contracting fit the bill. They had the plumbers, the electricians, the finishers, they had the demo crew, they had everybody, and it was one-stop shop, which is...
What I liked about G is the professionalism.
Yeah.
They were easy to work with. They brought the whole crew in, like you just said. It was impressive to see that. It was one-stop shopping. There was one person to talk to. And you might get into this later, but everyone we spoke to was just kind of fun / funny.
Yeah.
You know, the crew was kind of, they're chippy, which is good to see. The real people.
Yeah.
And even what I like too about it is just there were so many different things, levels of service too. It's okay, we can do this. Can you do that? Well, I don't know. Maybe we can add this. Maybe not.
Yeah.
That's stuff you couldn't get from a one-man show.
Yeah. They could pivot very quickly and step in and help each other out, which I witnessed firsthand. And I watched the tile guy help the gentleman cut the window trim. And I'm like, wow, he's not just the tile guy, he's the window trim guy. And then everybody did a little bit of everything, but they did it in an expert way. So we had a kitchen that was straight out of 1995.
Straight up.
Straight out of 1995 with the soffits, low ceilings, pretend granite countertops that were a lovely shade of like a pink.
Floor tiles on the wall.
Oh yeah.
That was a good look.
Yeah, that was floor tiles. That was good, and just overall bad function, no function, and it was the antithesis of open concept. It was small, low, narrow doorways and dark.
And what's really cool about this house is the sun's in the back, so there's beautiful sunlight coming in. It comes around towards the front, you had a beautiful sunlight coming in, but it was like boxed off.
Yeah.
And probably after the fact, after it was built, and in those times you had boxier areas. And so it probably wasn't a bad gig for that time.
Yeah.
We came from a beautiful house that was nice and open, and then the first thing we saw was like this, like we have to open it up. And that was just fun too. If we talked through, there's a wall right there. Well, could we take down the wall? Maybe I don't know. But there's vents and there's gas and there's electric and there's that load bearing, and it's kind of like everything. G was like, let's see. And now, if it is, we either can't do it that way or we'll figure it out. Let's just see. And then they were knock on wood. It turned out like not load bearing. Wow, this will open up and this will, and it just opened the whole thing up. It was light and airy.
Yep. And yeah, it was worn. Yeah, and it didn't fit our personalities at all. And I knew I was cooking in somebody else's kitchen.
We're not.
I think the biggest thing that upset me about the kitchen originally was I knew it wasn't ours, and I wanted desperately to make it ours. And it was finding the right people and the right team of people that could execute the vision I had. They took the time, and it wasn't a rush job, and I felt like our project was going to become a priority. And they worked with us on the timing. Our timing was like, let's start the ball rolling as far as series planning in January, but I don't want anything happening until September. And they were very respectful of that because we were planning things around school year and weather, and we pushed everything off, that they honored the timeline that I wanted to start with. And the best part was they finished the timeline that they committed to. And that was priceless.
And literally, we kind of had a vision. And what we wanted, you'll see it later, was we have family, huge family, cousins, aunts, uncles, parents are in town, nephews, nieces, everything. And so you have a lot of people. And the kitchen is the centerpiece of your whole, it's your heart of the whole house. And I just always visioned, we're gonna be sitting right here, standing right here at this island. We're gonna have a glass of wine, and it was Thanksgiving. And we all stood around. The vision for family to be all in one room, not half over there and a couple, and like we're all together, and here we are celebrating life, celebrating family.
Yeah, we had nearly 20 people, and it was a comfortable fit. And I think they had all seen the house beforehand, and this was the first time they were all seeing it. So to watch them come in our front door and just jaw on the floor that's what made it so worthwhile.
How many people were like,
yeah,
this is the same house. Like our family's it's the same house. Like, how did they? But wait, someone was. How did you? And like, just you blow out that wall and you pull it out, and it's just. Even for us living here, I thought this is so much bigger.
Yeah.
Than we even imagined.
Oh, yeah, because we're trapped by staircases, so we couldn't widen the footprint. We could only lengthen, and we lengthened as far as we could and then some. But we didn't know the potential the house had. Yeah. And that's why even looking at the drawings from the designer, I'm like, if this actually comes to fruition, I will be shocked. And it did, and then some. So.
And it doesn't even do the beauty of this justice. You just take pictures like, oh, this is really nice. Oh, you have cabinets. Like, no, it wasn't. It was on a core level different.
Oh,
like
gosh,
this is not just nice cabinets and floors. Like, it's different.
When people get this thing, like we get it to the studs, like that wasn't an exaggeration. We were down to subfloor. We were down to seeing the outside coming inside. Mm-hmm. So, and I loved how quickly the teams all worked together. Because there was never any finger pointing. There was never, that's not my job. It was, again, watching people jump in and help. And that's the part I'm like, they get it. And actually, truth be told, we had to wait like probably over a month for him to come out and just do the initial, like, let's just walk the space and take measurements. I was like, okay, well, hopefully this is really worth the wait. And I had the other contractors already, or the firms lined up, and I'm interviewing, and now here comes G. And honestly, having the designer and the owner come out, I'm like, okay, this just leveled the playing field tremendously. It was worth the wait. It truly was, to know that they were coming and they were investing their time in something that was still very much a maybe. So, and then, the process was slow, but I was driving the timeline, not them, which as a customer in a reno is never the case, or at least all the other families we talked to that were going through kitchen renovations, they weren't driving the timeline, and I loved that because there was never a rush, and we could just get things ordered and let it just sit and take our time with revisions of drafts and, all that. And I love that because I felt very much connected with all the decisions versus, oh, well, we went ahead and did this. That never happened. Mm-hmm. So, and then, the September 1st rolls around and an army descended upon our house, and our kitchen was gutted to the studs in a day or two. A day and a half. The before and after photo of start to end of day was shocking. I'm like, oh, this is big time. So, and it was so awesome. And the whole process with the app, that blew my mind. And to know I could look on my phone and know that I had a plumber coming, this day to work on this, and then an electrician coming this day, and they showed up and they knew what they were here to do. Nobody was asking me questions, and they knew they had a binder to go to if they did have questions, or to call the project manager. And I felt very taken care of, and I could call the project manager or text day or night, and they were always available with an answer, or would get back to me right away with an answer. And again, in talking with friends that were going through kitchen renovations, not the same experience at all. And so we learned to stop sharing how awesome our experience was, because theirs was not.
And that was to the point where, like, other people, like, how's it going? You'd be like, oh, they're doing okay. Like, they couldn't even brag on it because they're so good. Mm-hmm. Like,
no.
Well, they said they're gonna do X, and they did X, and they're a day ahead of schedule, and these other people were like, they're showing up for half an hour, and I'm part of on the business side, part of the sales side, it wasn't the cheapest game in town. And one of the things, when you're doing things like this, I think it for like a lot of value. And one of our thoughts and kind of philosophies in life is you pay away headaches if you can. If you have, I'm going to buy away a headache. What's this worth? Because we've not always done that. It has been there in life where I went cheap, and you get cheap. Yeah. And and you always look at the downside protection. So if things are good, it doesn't matter who you have. If things go bad, and there's going to be, not bad, but there's always going to be a hiccup or a problem. And there were, hey, this pipe is magically,
pipes and walls.
And you have to go. But it was kind of neat when I remember just saying, okay, well, what's the solution? It's kind of like, okay, and you could see the wheels turning, and like, okay, what if we did this or do that? Or
there was always a solution,
you know?
always, and that was the part that was fantastic.
And there was never, I felt never any hiding on stuff.
Nope.
So we've all been there, like something happens to the client, like, oh man, I
Yeah,
anything.
and that was one thing that I had said, please be transparent. Please be transparent. Don't let me find something. Bring it to my attention. I'm a mom. I get it. Stuff happens. So, but they were always transparent. Or it was the guys here going, we're going to do this. Are you good with this? I'm like, well, explain to me why. And they would. And I'm like, that's green light, go. That's awesome. Thank you.
It was definitely excellent value for the money.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Yeah. Especially when, again, fast forward to the end of the project and we're in the home stretch and we're talking to these families and they're like, so how's it going? And I'm like, I don't want to say done. I don't want to. I'm like, yeah, we're round to the bend. And I would just be so vague. And then here comes Thanksgiving. I'm like, do you want to come over and see it? And they're, you're done? We're done. We're done. And they're like, we aren't even halfway through. So.
And then winter time's coming in for them. They're still not done. And you have kids. You need, like, there has to be an ending. Let's land the plane. Let's get going.
And the thing I learned also is the way G Contracting did our remodel was, sitting in that showroom, which I loved, wasn't this pretentious, glitzy, bougie showroom. It's real, and that's what I wanted. I wanted real. And I'm in there with the designer, Lindsay, and I'm like, okay, well, I like this. I don't know about this. And it was always price driven. Well, if you go this way, you're going to be up here. If you go this way, you'll be over here. And she guided me, and there was never shock. There was never price shock. And in talking to, friends of ours, they're like, oh, we just picked out our tile and we have to start all over again. It's so expensive. I'm like, you didn't already know, like that wasn't already built in? No, we thought it was. And that was indicative of the service they got. And they're the ones that give contractors a bad name. They're the ones why homeowners don't take on projects, big ones like this, because they don't know who they can trust.
Trust.
Yeah, and we knew we could trust G. And they didn't let us down. And I had, firm A, firm B, firm C, firm D, or let's go G, firm G. And it was just starting to, like, I want apples to apples comparison. And it's like, well, this one doesn't include this or this, but G did. I'm like, okay, that's another plus, and it just came down to pros and cons. And then again, having Lindsay and Jonathan in our house, I'm like, okay. And that's where I just keep looking. I would say, is this everything? Is this everything? I know it's in writing, but is this? Yep, it is. Okay, and it was. So. I think what was neat and a specific experience with Herman and Zane was watching them troubleshoot when we had a miscue on the size of the sink. And I'm like, I really, really want the bigger sink. And the way that it was originally built, it's like, you might have to go with a smaller one. I'm like, well, what can we do? And I just kind of stepped back and I watched them, like, you know what, if we do this and we pull this off and we stretch this down and we build it this way, it'll work. And it was amazing because honestly, folks like that probably don't get a chance to be empowered. And I knew enough to say, what can we do? And then,
When you're almost giggling on the phone.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And that was part of your security too. Like at the end of the day, I get a call.
Yeah.
We did A, B, C. Tomorrow we do X, Y, Z. We didn't get to this, but I'm working on that, and that's coming over. And it would make me happy.
Yeah.
To know that you feel comfortable.
Oh gosh, yeah. And I felt like I had an advocate because, he was my advocate because I would look at stuff and I just have a very sharp eye for detail, and I'd say, I think that cabinet's dinged or dented or scratched or it's off color. And I'm like, you just tell me. He's like, I'll be out. And he was out multiple times a week at certain venues. And I traveled for a living. And I was like, you need to tell me when I absolutely have to be home versus when I can go. And he had the entire renovation on a schedule. And he's like, you cannot travel these few days. And that was like, okay, I'm literally planning my work life around this renovation because you said so. And that's how much I trusted him. And never did
flight schedules, client
I
meetings,
literally, I scheduled things around the renovation because of his direction. And it's just, I told him from the get-go, you cannot over-communicate with me. The heart of our home, and I don't want to be surprised. I don't want to be blindsided. Let's just talk about it now. And like 8 times out of 10, it was fine. Just, touch a base, or like, okay, we've got a concern about this. And then it was like, how much is that going to cost? She was the one. It was her that sealed the deal. And I said that to the owner of the company. if she had been at the other firm, I'd have gone to the other firm. It was her.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You know when you connect with someone both professionally and personally, and we did, and we have this because of her.
I remember that. It's like at the end of the day,
Yeah.
when you're talking to whoever it is at whatever company,
Mm-hmm.
who do you feel most comfortable with? And
Yeah.
you said that like this one.
Yep. She's a mom.
That's
She
good.
relates to chaos. She gets it, and she can pivot just like I can. And she was so relatable, and it just was a no-brainer. We did have things pop up, and the change orders, like everything was signed, sealed. You're agreeing to this. We're going to do this, and there was never any surprises. I knew exactly what was coming.
And it's
Yeah.
funny, like with the trust, even
Yeah.
it is, I was like, I'll just get out my checkbook each time, and they're like, oh Scott, can we do this? Like, okay, yeah. But it was never like, oh great, now what do you? Okay, really?
Yeah.
Jerks. It was never that. It was like, okay, what has to be? Okay, this
Yeah.
this
And they were
wasn't.
all legit.
Can we do this or that? Okay,
Yeah.
what's that gonna cost? And I was okay. I feel like you shot me straight the whole time, so
Yeah.
that this is reasonable to do, and I know you're gonna do a good job, and it's gonna be, so it wasn't. I think it worked out well.
And on the payment stuff, again, when I was narrowing it down, like the other firm didn't offer financing. G-Contracting does. It was 18 months, 0%. And when you're doing a renovation like this, that's a chunk of change that you can spread out. And that was phenomenal. Like that was also, dipping into finances, and okay, they worked with us on things. And it was just, I never got a hard no. And that was even after everything was signed and payments were starting to happen, I never got a hard no. It was like, well, let me see what we can do. Often does a person get to say they designed their kitchen? Like, I took Pinterest to the next level with Lindsay, and everything I showed her, she made happen. She explained to me why maybe shouldn't go this route, but we could do this. So, and again, that was one of those things that I didn't get from the other designers.
And I even it's interesting, it wasn't all yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, the two of you like, well, I have
Yeah.
this idea, and,
Yep.
and she's like, I don't think so, and you're like, I don't think so. And
Yeah.
so it was, and that's actually
Yep.
very valuable to not
Yeah.
always just be, okay, sure. Then after
Yep.
the fact that, well, wait, why didn't you tell me that it didn't look good? Well, I didn't want to say,
Mhm.
it's like, no, at the end of the day, though, it's your decision, and
Yep.
I think the best compliment is, so you travel a lot,
Mhm.
you're gone a lot, and just when you came home last Friday,
Mhm.
and we were all running around every lacrosse field, and who knows, with kids, and I come in, and you're sitting here,
Yeah.
and you go, I'm in my happy place.
Yeah. I'm still in my happy place, and it's months later.
Yeah.
And it's like all the fancy shine and polish is worn off, and this is the real kitchen. This is the everyday kitchen, and I love it. I love it.
We're like always bragging on G-Contract.
Yeah.
Literally, like anytime, like
Yep.
just call G. And you know what we always say is, it's not the cheapest game, but you're gonna get a great quality.
Yep. Yeah.
You make a choice, and not to be funny, but the people we hang out with, people aren't. If you're doing a new kitchen, it's not like you're not putting food on the table. Like, yeah, you have money. It just depends on what you do, but it's shocking how many people then still go cheap with stuff.
Oh
It's
my
like,
gosh.
okay, this isn't a
Yep.
cheap area, this isn't a cheap neighborhood, but all the time, like, just do it. You'll enjoy it. You'll like it.
Yep.
It's
And honestly, I think we are our own testimony, because was it probably 2 or 3 weeks into the project, we decided we wanted to do another project, and we couldn't tie it in timing wise and planning wise, but we just finished up our second project with them. Yeah, second project with them, which completes like this entire section of our home, and we call them phases now. It's like we've already talked through phase 3 and phase 4, so we're getting there. But in my heart, I'll do my due diligence, but my allegiance and alliance is to G-Contracting because of what we experienced.
the proof's in the pudding.
Yeah.
Neighbors, friends, family come over, and they're just like, oh my gosh, how
Yeah.
do you do this? Where is this? Wait, wasn't there? What
Yeah.
was, and then and especially in this neighborhood, all the houses are about the same age, so we're all going through the same stuff.
Yeah.
You just did it, or you need to do it, and
Yeah.
yeah, call them up. And like you said, back to your point,
Yeah.
is at least you get the right person coming in the door
Yes.
to say, well,
Yeah.
this is kind of what it'll cost you. This is what you're thinking, and
Yeah, and I think it's so funny because I now look at other people's renovations and it's like I'm immediate because we all had soffits. Everybody had a soffit. And I look up, I'm like, oh, you can still see your soffit. I'm like, not in ours, you know, and it's just, you start to realize like the quality of the work.
Yeah.
And like, you'll hear people go, well, in the end, they couldn't, you know, connect those light switches, or, you know, they didn't get the seams right in the floor. I'm like, you should come see ours, because they did it. They figured out a way, and they nailed it.